Hi, I'm Marty Nemko. Middle-class people, and especially the wealthy, are subject to much guilt and shaming. For example, you're privileged. The implication is that making a good living doesn't come mainly from ability and hard work, but from your race, class, or gender. Indeed, most novels, plays, movies, the mainstream media portray the poor as innocent victims of the middle classes and especially rich people's ill treatment of them. Well-off people are disproportionately portrayed as having acquired their money unfairly, typically a sleazy businessman, and yeah, it's usually a man. In children's movies, screenwriters have the luxury of drawing on monarchies, so many of the bad guys are wealthy royalty, for example in Shrek or Frozen or Little Mermaid or Beauty and the Beast, who didn't earn their money, they inherited it via primogeniture. Of course, some people made good money because they inherited it or derived benefit from their race, class, or gender, but most middle and upper income people of all races and genders did work harder and smarter for longer, delaying gratification, for example, foregoing income and taking on debt to go to graduate school so that an employer would pay them well, or if the person runs a business, he or she risked being one of the half of businesses that fail, earning nothing, and instead worked hard enough and wisely enough that lots of customers, rich and poor, were willing to part with their hard-earned dollars to buy the product or service that he or she was making available to them. Middle and upper earners are also guilt-tripped into not voting in their family's self-interest, but rather to vote for candidates who will take their money to redistribute more resources from them to the poor. That includes voting for candidates who will raise taxes further to pay for such things as yet more education resources redistributed from schools serving their kids to schools serving the poor. And these aren't just cash resources, but, for example, eliminating classes that are grouped by student ability, or voting for candidates that would have their kids have a reduced chance of admission to selective colleges. And if admitted at most colleges, the middle class qualifies for little cash aid. Mainly they have to take out loans, endangering the family's financial security. And those loans not only have to be paid back with interest, student loan is virtually the only loan you can't discharge in bankruptcy. You got to keep paying. And voting for candidates, they tend to fall in the same category. You're voting for a very progressive candidate. These are people who would endorse Medicare for all. That's a nice focus group endorsed phrase. What it means in plain English is equal health care for everyone, whether the person is paid into the system or not, whether they're legally here or not. And that means that taxpayers are going to get worse access to the already overwhelmed, error-ridden healthcare system. Over 300,000 people die a year just in our hospitals because of medical errors alone, and many more people have excess morbidity, that is prolonged recoveries. Meanwhile, the guilt and shame mongers don't mention that the top 1% of earners already pay not 1% of the federal taxes, but 39%, 39 times as much of the federal income tax. The top 10% of earners pay 71% of the income tax, and the bottom 50%, just 2.83%, less than 3%. And atop all that, middle and upper earners are frequently bombarded with solicitations to donate yet more to nonprofits, which mainly focus on the poor. And those pitches work. Those maligned 1%ers, they gave more than 1/3 of the over $400 billion that Americans gave to charity last year. Takeaway? Again, of course, some middle and upper income people, like some poor people, acquire their money through subterfuge or inheritance. But most middle and upper income earners, though imperfect as we all are, have earned the right to walk this earth and to put their head on the pillow each night without guilt or shame, even if they don't vote to have yet more money, more education, or more health care wrested from themselves and from their children. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm Marty Nemko.